Good evening, one and all, and welcome along to Season 2, Episode 76 of the UK Dallas Cowboys podcast. Today we are reviewing the events of the Browns game. As you can see, we're joined by regular members of the team, Mr. Paul Stewart.
Hi-ho.
Mr. Rich Jones.
Howdy.
And the very wonderful and Texas A&M's very finest of alumni, Mr. Rob Phillips from the Dallas Cowboys media team. How are things, Rob?
They're going good. I saw the Longhorn on your sweatshirt, and I was like, oh, man, just another reminder. My Aggies lost again over the weekend. But, hey, you know what? As I said before we went on the air, it's been a rough few days for all Texas football teams lately, including our Dallas Cowboys, huh?
Yeah, that's kind.
That's very kind.
So,
yeah.
I'm still lost for words.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you, Brian. I'm going to try not to swear in this one. I'll try. Emphasis on the try, all right?
Well, Rich, you, so long as you drop in your own famous catchphrase, we'll allow you away with not swearing.
Oh, that'll happen.
So, anyways, we are here to discuss the events of the weekend. So the Cowboys lost 38-49. We're now 1-3 on the season. So what's everyone's take on how the season has gone so far?
Yeah, that says it all.
It really does.
Yeah. Like, so much high expectation, like with the new coaching staff, and don't get me wrong, I'm actually still kind of happy how we're putting points on the board, but just everywhere else across the field, I'm just like, it just feels like I just want to drink to my early grave.
Rich, is similar feeling for yourself,
Just expectations up there, reality's down there, and the liquor cabinet's that way. So it's just, I genuinely don't know what to add. It's so lackluster on anything other than basically Dak throwing a ball is ridiculous.
And Rob, what's the feeling like out in Dallas at the moment? It's been a lot of bad vibes going around on Twitter in the last couple of days. Like, what's your own feel on things?
Yeah, I think the liquor cabinet's been a pretty common thing for a lot of people on Twitter lately. It's been a rough day on social media the last 2 days for the Cowboys. And you know what? I mean, rightfully so. You know, Stephen Jones, the Cowboys chief operating officer, was on the local radio here, 105.3, and the Fan, and said all the criticism that we're getting right now is deserved. And it, you know, it is. I mean, 1-3, and, you know, a common storyline starting in the season was, well, it's a new scheme, it's a new coaching staff, they didn't have an off season, and all that's true. And I do think it's impacted their chemistry and how, efficient they've been on the field, but they just got beat and allowed 50 points almost to a Cleveland Browns team that's got a new coaching staff and didn't have an off season either. So I don't think you can use that anymore as a reason why. And there's a lot of issues, but I think defense starts is the first one, and it's, they've got to find a way to fix it, but it's not all on the defense. It's also not having complimentary football right now.
Mm-hmm. So just before we jump into the game, anyway, we'll just give you the injury update. So obviously over the weekend, the news broke that La'el Collins is out for the season. Today we found out that Joe Looney is looking like 2 to 3 weeks and possibly longer. Mm-hmm. We've had some players cut, so Brandon Carr has been cut and Alex Light has been cut, and Greg Sinat has been taken on from the Browns practice squad. So,
of all teams.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, you guys are better than us. You got anyone going free? Oh, okay, we'll have him. Jesus.
Just further points today, Richard.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, they've that's the offensive line is just constantly in flux. I thought they were optimistic about La'el coming back, but they're just going to have to deal with life without him for the rest of the season. It looks like And Looney. Now you're asking rookies to come in and play on the offensive line. They've had success up there, up front overall, with a patchwork line, but it's just hasn't been what they want overall in terms of balance and trying to get the running game going in addition to the passing game. Dak's put up some big, cool numbers, but it's not leading to wins right now.
Yeah, it's funny that you kind of mentioned that, Rob. It's like Dak shouldn't have to throw over 500 yards to try and win a game. We should, like, our defense is kind of like putting the pressure on our offense to overperform to a certain extent. Yeah. And as a result of that, we're losing players and our offensive line and stuff like that. And it's just crazy, man. Absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it's not even. You're exactly right, and it's not even to a small extent. It's Dak basically trying his best, and the wide receiver core and the tight ends to keep us in this in any way, shape, or form, in spite of not accompanied by the defense. And special teams as well, because they've been having a tough time as well. And it doesn't help as well that Zeke's having a problem holding onto the ball lately. So,
if I can think of one positive to take out of this is no one can not complain about Dak Prescott anymore, because he is playing out of his skin right now.
What? He is. I think, if to be completely open and fair, he did get very lucky the other night. He left quite a few interceptions on the field. The Browns left quite a few interceptions on the field, so he did get quite lucky. But then he's being put, like we said, in a situation where he doesn't have that much time. He has to think, and he's trying to force things, and he's making decisions he probably wouldn't normally make, because when he was a rookie, he was very, very calm, very cool, very calculated, and very deliberate in what he did, and he's very good taking care of the ball. Now he is airing it up there a lot more, and it's going to happen. But I feel that because he's been put in that situation and he's having to fight for it a lot more, that's going to happen even a lot more again, especially when you can't establish a run game to complement it. You're taking that completely out of it, more or less. He's purely just throwing the ball. The Cowboys were referred to as a pass-first team now, and I haven't heard that in a long time. Dak is doing a good job, don't get me wrong, but he's not without criticism. But then I don't hold that much of that to him in a weird way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And that does feed into a point, and we'll get your take on this, Rob, because Rich and Graham, one of the other members of the team here, have been big exponents of drafting O-line help. That, we haven't really improved the O-line over the last couple of years. We've taken punts in the second, third, and fourth round in recent years, but we've done nothing to help out Lyle Collins and primarily Tyron Smith, who we know is going to miss 2 to 3 games a year. So was it a time last year when they should have addressed offensive tackle through the draft?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think your point is well taken, because you're right. Tyron's had injury issues every year. It's never been anything that's kept him out for an entire season. But when you look at what's happened this year and what's happened, last year, I think there was one game where Tyron and Lyle both didn't play, and it was that infamous Jets game where they couldn't get anything going offensively. And I think with Lyle having, that's a bad one, Paul. That was a rough one, man. And they functioned better overall this season offensively than that game in particular. Now they've got Tyron back, but I think with Lyle having a serious injury right now that he's dealing with, and Tyron always, he's such a tough player, but he's always going to be dealing probably with something every now and then. It's time to, I think, look at drafting particularly a tackle, and look at developing a tackle in the offseason coming up. Now, Terrence Steele is an undrafted rookie that they like. He's obviously had some mixed results in the starting lineup, so maybe they can continue to work with him. But I think it's got to be, and they've continued to address the line overall in the draft somewhat. Connor Williams, the second-round pick a couple years ago. They really like Tyler Biadasz at center. I think he might wind up being the center of the future. But I think that depth, you're right, especially at tackle, is something they've got to look at, because, they signed Cam Irving in the offseason, and he didn't even win the job. Now, he didn't really have much of a training camp, but they're trying to cycle in young players there, and the results have been hit or miss so far.
very good. So, just a question we do have in there from Mike, who is another member of the team. So, do you see the Cowboys trading for O-line help in the not too distant future or before the trade deadline?
I don't really see that. They might make a move at the trade deadline, but it's gonna usually that involves picks, and I wonder how hesitant they might be to use up draft picks and to try to get some help immediately. Now they've done it the last couple of years. I mean, obviously Amari Cooper, first round pick. Michael Bennett came in last year for a conditional 7th round pick, but I wonder about that because the cap situation, the salary cap situation is very interesting going into the offseason. They're not going to have a lot of room to maneuver. They're going to have to prepare to potentially slot Dak Prescott at $38 million to at least extend the negotiating window if they need to franchise him early on. So, without a lot of room to sign players, at least it looks that way, they're going to have to really rely on their draft class to restock, like you said, address O-line. Defensively, I can think of several positions where, man, just 4 games in, they're going to have to look at addressing this position and that position. I'd be hesitant to use draft picks, and they say they like their young tackles, their young offensive linemen, and I guess they'll just continue to develop them this year. But yeah, we'll see. You hope they can stay healthy or get healthier than they've been.
This might be an off-the-cuff question, but what about we trade players for more picks for next year? That's a possibility for regards to the cap.
And load up on draft picks. Yeah, I mean, the problem is, we actually brought that up on Talking Cowboys this morning. The problem is, I'm trying to think of position. Cornerback, they're pretty deep at when they're healthy, but they haven't been healthy. They got 2 guys on IR right now, Cheeto and Anthony Brown. I don't really see that, Paul, just because they're going to do whatever they can. If there's a guy they think that can help them, they're going to do whatever they can to try to stay in this race and try to win the division. But so far it hasn't worked out.
First of all, we've actually got a question in from Lauren Callahan as well. He's asking, during the off-season, the coaching staff said they would make the scheme fit the player rather than the player fit the scheme. Are we really seeing this as the defense more read and react than attack?
That's a great question. I don't know what you guys think about it, but we were just discussing this today that is what they said. And as you watch the games lately, you wonder, because they've mixed 4-3 and 3-4 alignments, and you wonder, when they try to run this 3-4 alignment, it's not helping them against the run. I think they might be better suited to use more of a 4-man front in those concepts. But the problem is they're so depleted at linebacker right now. I think that's impacting what they're trying to do. But you're right. They may need to take a look at that and see, okay, do we have the personnel to do everything we want to do? And Mike Nolan, the defensive coordinator, has said we've tried to scale back a little bit because we're just not there yet in terms of getting everybody on the same page.
Yeah, it's funny you mention that because I was like, I don't know if I'm a big D-line guy. Like that's my jam pretty much. And seeing DeMarcus Lawrence, for example, we'll probably talk about him later on, but seeing him in a 2-point stance just does not look natural at all.
Nope.
So there's all these different aspects as well. It's like it's fitting these players into are they actually being more reactive rather than hitting their gaps, so to speak. So it's like completely different concept compared to last season, where it's always about hitting those gaps, and we're seeing a big difference because we're actually seeing our D linemen getting pushed back a lot more, which is not fun to see at all.
Yeah, I mean, that game was pretty. To try and answer Lund's question, I mean, you've seen a bit where they tried to adapt specifically, like you said, from making them put a hand in the dirt because it's a bit more natural for them. That was a good thing, but then in the game, really, I didn't really see any attack, and I certainly didn't see any sort of reading, noticing things, and adapting, especially from the linebackers. There was a severe lack of it, which was part of the problem. It was just none of that really in the last game, to be honest, Lon. But I think there has been an attempt to make things better. and to make the scheme fit the players rather than the other way around. But it's not happening that great thus far. It's not. Things aren't clicking.
So just before we go any further, like folks, as you can see, there's questions coming in, and we really appreciate that. So keep firing those questions in. We'll put them up. We'll put them to Rob. We know he's well able to give us answers. He's knowledgeable, and whilst he's here, don't be afraid to ask questions. But if we start breaking down the game itself on the weekend, so the offense, the statistics are rolling through the screen there. With that numbers, Zeke's numbers, and then the wide receivers. If we look at the O-line seems to be the biggest issue in that it's not opening up the gaps for Zeke to make the runs that we're used to seeing Zeke make. Is that a case of just with this uncertainty and unknown relationships between everyone along the line that they're not sure what their assignments are, and is that affecting Zeke's game then on the back end?
It's certainly having an effect. I think that much is pretty obvious. I think it's a good point. You got two rookies on there. There is a good argument to be made there for unit cohesiveness, but at the end of the day, these guys aren't Doug Free, Travis Frederick, or Ronald Leary. You've got to roll with what you've got ultimately, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. When we said about taking picks, I think that's a good point. They're serviceable. The group is serviceable, but there has definitely been a decrease. But you'd expect that because they aren't the guys I've just highlighted that we've had previously, where we've been, in fairness to say, we've said before, admittedly a little bit spoiled in terms of O-line. But then that's not helped by the fact that Zeke hasn't been able to hold on to the ball that much recently. So he's had some serious issues himself, and I'm a bit of I'm more than happy to drive the Zeke fan train, but he's really not had some good games lately, to put it lightly. The amount of times the ball's been punched out, and every time I see him carrying the ball, and every time the ball's getting punched out, it's getting knocked out, he's only holding it with one hand. I'm just like, for the love of God, man, just bring your other arm across and protect the ball. The ball is king. We're trying to establish a run game. Protect the goddamn ball. It's not that hard. It's not like he's out free, open, trying to run with the ball in his arms going. He's still in the trenches. Protect it and then get going once you're up to the second level. Fine, but just Jesus.
Rob,
sorry, that was a bit of a rant, but yeah.
Rob, I'm seeing you smiling and going, "Yeah, these are all points I've made before." So take it away and give us your own thoughts on it.
No, you're right on. I'm thinking about he ripped off a 24-yard run in the first half, and he winds up basically sitting on a guy's helmet, and he gets the ball ripped out. Yeah. And that's, they finally got something going there in the running game, and that's the result. And you're right. The fumble, and he's owned it. The fumbles have been a problem. I think just as a runner, I think he's looked really good in terms of quickness. And I thought he looked kind of almost lighter than he's been in recent seasons, but it's been a small sample size. And what we've seen, they haven't dominated the line of scrimmage in the running game. I think they're averaging 4.2 yards a carry. And, you guys hit on a great point that, a lot of teams would love to have Tyron Smith, Zach Martin, that are, two perennial Pro Bowlers. But they do have some youth on the other part of the line. And so it's not a Travis Frederick there manning things and paving the way up front for those interior runs. And it's not the same line. They're working through it. But I also think and it's by their own doing, the turnovers that they've had has really thrown things out of whack. And I think it's prevented them from trying to establish the rhythm that they want in the running game. He's only had 72 carries, I think, through 4 games. And that's just kind of unheard of for Zeke. Yep. It's not the way they want to play. I think we're showing, as Paul said, Dak is showing he can sling it and he can put up numbers and they can be a passing offense, but they're at their best when it's Zeke kind of being the engine, and they're just not even close to that right now. And it's a big problem.
Yep. 70 attempts, 273 yards, 3.9 average. He's 11th.
Sounds around won the game. I fully agree.
But go on, Paul, you were going to say something there.
Yeah, it pains me to see. Like, I don't know if anyone's may have come across this, but see, over the years, like over the times of we've had different offensive line coaches and that, there's factors. There could be factors where our Pro Bowlers are getting taught different ways of how to block, because there is ways you can do it in terms of foot placement, like especially in pass protection, even in run blocking. Like if you're double teaming someone, hand placement, all that type of stuff. So I don't know if that has an effect on these rookies coming in, not knowing what they're doing, or they're still trying to get used to this new way of blocking or whatever. And there's all these different factors. The same goes with the D line when it comes to like being more in the attacking, but being more the alert, like reacting method. So I don't know if that might have something to do with it as well. So I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on that. Is that could have any factor?
Maybe. I mean, I would have, admittedly, obviously, I've never played, but I would have thought that the base mechanics are the same. And when you're on a line that has someone like Zach Martin there, that's a pretty good guy to learn from. Yes, obviously, different coaches will have different ways that they want you to do things. Yeah. Coaches are brought in for specific reasons because they do differ, but I would think that really you should be able to. You're either a decent offensive lineman or you're not. Obviously, you can tweak a person's game and train them up a certain way, but I don't think it would. I don't think it would have that much of an effect, me personally. But again, I've never played. I'm just a guy sat at home.
Yeah, I don't think they've. You're right. I don't think they've changed too much from a technique standpoint with Joe Philbin coming in. But your point's well taken that when Paul Alexander was here and they went through a few O-line coaches, he changed up a lot of what they tried to do technique wise. Yeah. And it didn't really fly. I don't think the players liked it too much, and they made a midseason change. I think he's trying to adapt to what they do well overall. But they are young. They're not as dominant up front as they've been, and they've faced some really good defensive fronts too. I thought Cleveland's defensive front really good in terms of their interior guys pushing the pocket. Besides Myles Garrett,
Richardson in that,
Richardson and Aaron Donald. I don't know if it gets tougher. I don't think you could ever face a defender as tough as he is in your entire life for the Rams. So it's been a tough matchup for them early on, and they're still trying to grow. I think the pass protection's been good though. Overall,
by and large,
115 pass attempts for Dak in 2 games is crazy.
Yeah, and credit to Brandon Knight in terms still to fill that out. Like, even though there's been a few reps where they've completely dominated, completely outclassed, but they've actually managed to overcome and adapt, which is really great to see. So if they can continue progressing like that, I'm actually happier in terms of the passing game. But it's like you said, it's more the run blocking is the issue.
And that's the thing. In terms of sacks, like we've all said, Dak's airing the ball a ridiculous amount at the minute because he has to. Therefore, there are a lot more attempts up, and they're still only tied for 17th. It's like a 3-4-way tie or something for 17th play for 9 sacks that they've allowed. That's actually really not that bad considering the body of work for those guys is a lot higher than a lot of other teams around the league. Certainly some that are above them and haven't allowed as many sacks. So I'm, like you said, it's the run game and establishing the run that would really, really help this offense be more calculated, help Dak be more calculated, and put even more points on the board to help how terrible the defense is doing at the minute.
Like Rob, I think you actually touched on a name there, and I was just trying to think of it. Paul Alexander, and I think he was the guy that wanted the players to show him how they got ketchup out of a bottle in terms of showing their blocking technique and stuff like that. And since then, it seems to be a case that the O-line has just been on a slide. Like, is it the fact that they've had 3 O-line coaches in 3 years just really impacting them?
I mean, you definitely want that continuity. I think when they brought Mark Colombo back in, they got back to what they do best. And I thought the second half of last year, they did a better job in the running game, getting Zeke more in a rhythm. And I think some of that had to do with Zeke just missing all of training camp with the contract holdout.
100%.
I think it's more about – I'm sorry?
Pollard as well. Like, he must have got some games. Second half of the season.
Yeah, for sure. And I just think, when you lose a Travis Frederick, I know they lost him a couple years ago for a season. I think that makes a big impact. A guy that can, Joe Looney's a solid vet, but Travis was as good as anybody in terms of getting everybody on the same page pre-snap. I thought he helped their red zone offense. I thought he was really critical for them in the running game. And I think you're, that's showing up. I think you miss him. Even last year, he said he didn't play to his standard of play, but I think it was still at a high level. And
it was pretty evident. He still made the Pro Bowl that year. Still made it.
Yeah.
It's
so,
like, the scary thing is that you could clearly see the physical size difference between when Frederick before the condition and after when he came back. You could see he was a little bit smaller, but he still performed like beyond expectations that year.
Yep,
but
definitely.
But when you're talking about like Joe Looney and that, like solid vet. But I'll tell you what, I'm quite happy with Bayadish. And the reason I'm saying that because he is from the same school as Travis Frederick. And I think in terms of their school in Wisconsin, they really want to make sure that the center has the focal point of picking these positions up before the ball's been snapped. So we noticed that during the game, like during the broadcast and TV. Don't know what network it was. I think it was Fox, but you can see Bayadish, he was telling Connor Williams, like just pointing out, watch out, like blitz or whatever, blitz reads and stuff like that. Maybe pick him up or whatever, and that. Just making those zone reads and stuff like that. So I find that's quite fundamental in terms of that. I think for Bayadish, just more game time, he's just going to improve.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, he went in. He, like you said, he got in. He got stuck in. He wasn't sort of afraid of anything. He was calling things out. He took control of that as much as he could, and he didn't shrink down. He filled the position very well. I was actually quite impressed with him. Really, he didn't look like he was missing a step. Really.
If there was one little bit of criticism you can give Bayadish, is he was making rookie mistakes in terms of snap count. He wasn't in sync. Yeah, so I think that still comes with time because don't forget, it doesn't matter how long you've been at. Like every rookie has done that in the O-line.
Yeah,
exactly. You get a little bit trigger happy because you know what player. Because I played both sides of the ball before, and when I played guard and left tackle at one point, see if there was a certain play, like a certain run block, and I know who I'm blocking. I'm like, oh yes, I get to get him. So, and sometimes I get a wee bit too trigger happy before the snap counts, and I get called for offside. So it happens.
Yeah, it's gonna happen.
Sorry if I was talking way too fast there, Robin.
No, I got you, loud and clear.
Oh, sweet.
That's impressive.
I think, to be fair, Rob, I think your understanding of Scottish is a lot better than trying to understand Yorkshire, which you would have had to have dealt with if Jamie was on the show with us tonight.
Man, y'all are all over Jamie, man. All over Jamie. I've heard Jamie before. I can understand Jamie.
You're the first guest that's ever said that.
Maybe I'm the first.
Is that true, Rob? Is that true?
Yeah. I'm being nice, but yeah, I can understand it. More or less.
There we go.
Jamie started calling on there.
Moving along, I think one of the big offensive highlights this year. Obviously, we've had no problem scoring points, but I think the addition of CD Lamb this year and getting his first 2 touchdowns at the weekend, it really showed that it was the right pick at 17.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
100%,
it's funny how there's, I think after a loss like that, man, Twitter's on fire, and a lot of people were saying, well, maybe they shouldn't have made the CD pick because they need help on defense. Sorry, I can't go that route. I mean, what he's been able to do his first 4 games, it's kind of unheard of in terms of consistency, like you said. At least 5 catches a game, being productive, allowing this offense to kind of create another dimension in terms of big plays.
Yep.
And I'm just not sure what a 17th overall pick could have added on defense in these first 4 games. It would have made such a difference defensively, because the problems they've had on defense are really all three levels. There hasn't been one particular thing that has led to their problems defensively. It's been up front. It's been linebackers at times. It's been the secondary, obviously. So I think you got to look at what CD's done and just be really impressed. And the fact that he's on the same page with Dak as quickly as they've been without, like we said, without training a long training camp and all that. He just really is an impressive young player.
I'll be honest. I was one of the first ones that really wanted a defensive player in that draft. I'll be honest. I did not expect to see CD Lamb, and my reaction at first, I was quite angry about it until I processed. Like the guys with Smith, they were laughing at my reaction towards it because we were doing the live stream for the draft till 4 o'clock in the morning, which was fun. But yeah, initially I wasn't too happy because I just felt as though we just needed more defensive. But when you've got a player like CD Lamb at 17, he can't say no. And you know what Jerry's like, he likes to make a splash when it comes to the draft, and he certainly did do that. And anything to put a wee knock in the teeth in the Eagles, I'm happy with that. So
100%. Yeah. Suck it. Yeah, he's had a very good start, obviously. I mean, it was before or on the night of the draft when we were sort of analysing everything as it came in. Mike, we turned around to Mike and said, look, Mike, give us a sort of a rundown on this guy. What's he like? And he surmised it in the way of, if you put the ball up near CD, he's very, very likely to go get it. And if he gets his hands on it, he ain't dropping it. And that's exactly what's happened. It's a valid point. I get what people would say, when hurting on defense, should we not have gone defense? But let's not forget, we did draft someone else in the second round, and he has actually been contributing. He's been playing pretty decently as well.
He's been great. Yeah, we'll definitely talk about him shortly for sure.
My own view on this, obviously, for a wide receiver from such a trash school, I've been impressed.
Oh, Brian.
Well, those are fighting words the day of the week of the game.
Yeah,
little Texas OU action coming this weekend.
Oh God, you should see Brian in a private conversation. God,
Jesus.
they can be on fire.
Moving along to another one of the high points of the wide receiver and tight end core has been the emergence of Dalton Schultz. This season, I mean, God forgive me, I've been all over Dalton Schultz for over 2 years. Didn't think he was going to ever make it, and in the last 3 games, he's made me eat my words.
And me, I just thought he was more of a blocking tight end.
Yeah,
never a fast receiver.
Yeah. Well done, that man. Seriously, well done, that man. He's typified next man up this year so far. He's done the best job. He's been really outstanding.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same boat as you guys. Like when he broke out in, I guess it was week 2 against Atlanta, I think he led him in catches, had 9 catches. And I was thinking, I've been waiting for a game like that for him, because when he came out, I know they drafted him in the 4th round, but a lot of people in the building felt like, he's not going to be Jason Witten. Nobody is, but he had those kind of qualities coming out of Stanford. And like you guys mentioned with Biotish at Wisconsin, that's like an offensive line factory. Well, that's a tight end factory at Stanford. They really harp on guys being well-rounded, blocking, catching, all those things. And he has those tools, and he's had them. But, I think maybe it took him a little while to get adjusted to the game. I think he had to add some strength to get stronger his first couple of years. And he's taking the ball and running with it without Blake Jarwin in the lineup right now. In fact, somebody sent us a message on our mailbag saying, is he going to be the starter next year when Blake comes back? And I'm like, man, I hadn't thought about that, but it might be a good competition. Maybe they, I don't think you want to take one of these top receivers off the field, but maybe they need to go more 2 tight end when they're all healthy again next year.
Potentially, yeah. And I mean, it's an interesting question, definitely, because still with this injury, again, we don't know the full extent of what Blake Jarwin can do. So,
well, you kind of saw what a two tight end force can do against us with the Browns, what they did to us. So when Blake Jarwin comes back, him and Schultz run the ball. Hopefully, him make a big major contribution.
Definitely.
Absolutely. We've just gotten another question in there, and we'll put this to you, Rob. In terms of CD Lamb making Michael Gallup less important, and does it affect his contract extension?
Wow, that is a great question. And I think Stephen Jones, when they drafted CD, he said on the Fan, we'll have to make a big decision there because we're finding out with this current roster you can't pay everybody. And they made a decision not to bring back Byron Jones, at least not at the money that he was going to command at the cornerback position. And I don't know if you can keep all the top receivers. So CD will have up to 4 years left on his deal after this season. Gallup's got, I guess, one more season. Yeah. And that's going to be really interesting because I think Michael Gallup is, he has a chance to be a top receiver for a team. It's not this team.
But he 100%.
But he could do it somewhere. And, I would love them to keep him after next season. But it's a great question. I don't know if they can afford it, especially – Dak's going to make a ton of money, even more money next year than he is this year, one way or another, whether it's on the franchise tag or whether they get a long-term deal done. And you just can't pay everybody. That's just the life in the salary cap era.
I kind of goes back to the kind of question I was kind of thinking earlier before, with regards to trading players from defense or whatever on that to gain more draft picks, because that could help bring the cap down to help keep those players in offense, but also bring in these younger players with a lot of talent, and it doesn't necessarily break the boundaries of that cap. So that's what I was kind of thinking towards that. But that's a good point you just made there, Bob, as well.
Yeah,
very good one.
It's tough. It's tough. But I guess that's part of the argument when you draft a CeeDee Lamb is did you really have to do that? Because then you're going to probably end up potentially having to let go, a guy like Michael Gallup in a couple years. We'll see. But Paul, I just feel like, man, they got to keep all the defensive players they got. They got to load up and keep them and see if they can get this thing righted, because it's a tough deal right now.
Well, where do we go with that? That's what I want to know.
I think Mr. Broadus would say that's a beautiful segue into our next segment. Yep. So the Dallas Cowboys defense, the number one defense in the league. Very much not the case. So where do we start?
Right, let me go and get my bottle of whiskey. I think if you ever played Call of Duty, it was pretty much like after 25 kills, it was like the nuclear bomb went off in that defense.
Yeah,
it was just an absolute disaster.
Yeah. I think Rob, you made the point earlier, and we'll throw this over to you, obviously, is that on all three levels, the defense is not performing. So I suppose if we start with the front line, the defensive line, what's going wrong that the defensive line just doesn't seem to be able to make an impact?
Yeah, it's that's the thing that stood out to me the most about the Cleveland game in particular, where obviously 307 rushing yards. That's the most in franchise history allowed in a game. It's just it's unreal. And when you watch it back, you really you saw the Cleveland Browns linebacker or offensive line get to the second level so quickly. They were really on the Cowboys defenders, their front four, really quickly, and getting to the second level, getting on Jalen Smith, taking him and Joe Thomas out of plays at times, and that's a big problem. When the Cowboys have had trouble stopping the run in recent years, that's been a big factor where they just can't get that push up front, and they can't hold their gaps. But man, there was just, and we'll get into it. It wasn't just that. I mean, it was just a lot of different things going on in that game.
Yeah, I can't help but laugh at Adrian's question now. Why does
it's accurate. That's a question I was going to ask you all, because I think the whole concept is absolutely ridiculous that they literally pulled a guy off a fishing boat and he just went for 95 freaking yards. Like, are you serious? And he's completely right. There is a massive, massive lack of effort and desire on the defensive side of this ball. And personally, for me, it's been I think the Hot Boys mentality, I think, has been a bit of a cancer for this team for a long time. Ever since they lost to the Rams a couple of years ago in the playoffs, they haven't been the same. They never really rocked up. I said this at the start of the previous season of our show, the end of season 1. I don't think they showed up. I think that's the reason they lost the game, is the defense never showed up. And to be honest, I don't think they've had any real amount of drive since that game. It's just, there is a serious commitment issue. Desire, call it just wanting to go out and like there's loads of people going out and they're like, I've listened to all 3 shows from yesterday and again from today, and everyone is basically saying the same thing. There is a lot of people there is a serious issue with effort, and you go back and watch a lot of the plays, especially the last one that Odell Beckham made for the touchdown. People jogging and just give up. It's just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And I was right before we came on. I watched the breakdown, Brian, that you shared of his. I can't remember if it was that play or a similar play previously. I was giving Jalen a bit of the benefit of the doubt because I thought, he'd broken out, he'd come across, and he thought. But again, that's part of the problem. He thought someone else was going to make the tackle, and then he realized, and he's trying to gauge because he knows how quick Beckham is, where he's going to run. But that's part of the problem. He was expecting someone else to make the tackle.
Yeah, but
nobody is playing up to the same standard that this defense was back in 2014 when Rod Marinelli was running things, and the only name on this defense was Sean Lee, and he was out a lot. It's absolutely ridiculous. The tackling is not good enough. There's no hustle. There's no rush to the ball. It's ridiculous.
Well, I'm going to have a wee dig at Joe Thomas here, because in that particular play with Odell Beckham, why did he tackle the wrong person? He tackled the person without the ball. Beckham is literally like 2 yards right behind the guy and just completely took him out. And Jalen's like, then he started running after him.
Yeah.
Who was it that was lined up against bloody Baker Mayfield and just what the hell? He's clearly clearly not got the ball on him. He's clearly not going to be throwing the ball. What the hell is going on? Figure it out quick, because something's about to happen. Yeah,
on the opening touchdown, Jarvis Landry. Yeah, you're right. And I think on the Jalen play, he's way on the backside, and I guess he's thinking there's no way that this play is going to come to me. But it did, and and they weren't in position to make the play. And I just can't. I've never seen a 50-yard reverse play like that at the NFL level where nobody's touched, where the guy is not touched by anybody. It's just I've never seen that.
And here's the thing I'm really annoyed about. If we are really playing by reacting, that is going to be the slowest reaction I've ever seen.
There was no reaction. Jalen Smith is meant to be a sideline-to-sideline linebacker. He wasn't even at the sideline, the other sideline, and he didn't get over there anywhere near in time. There was no effort to get there.
I'm just talking about from a line perspective, though. It's when you see a motion, know, you should know from the previous place that they tried it twice. I'm pretty sure. They should know that. They should know that already. So okay, we might expect a reverse. And if that's the case, then whoever's on the strong side might have to switch, become contain, and whoever's on the contain side needs to be more the attacking side. And we just didn't adjust, and we saw what happened there. Alden Smith was just lucky, he was lucky to even get in that position in the first place, because he's pretty much having to do 2 jobs there. Because he was supposed to be on the containment side, and the other side was supposed to be going after it.
I think on that play itself, I know we were talking about this in our own group whilst it happened. I think someone said you could see that play before they even started, that the tight end was lined up as a crack back, that the reverse was coming, and everyone could see it. And I've highlighted it there on the screen. There seems to be just a lack of football IQ amongst most players on the defense. And they're just not seeing things. They're not anticipating what's going on. So, Rob, can you tell us any different? Is there something we're not seeing, or is that your own feeling?
Well, your point about the reverse is right. I mean, they ran the exact same reverse earlier in the game, and to come back to it and have this even more success, that's not adjustments. And I think they have guys on the defense with high IQ, high football IQ, but I just think there's just I think there's a situation.
Oh, Wheel.
Oh no.
Oh, the Wheel, the legend.
That was the wrong comment. That was the wrong comment I was going to show. I just popped up.
Hey, we get trolled on our show too all the time, constantly.
The comment I was going to put up was this: it could be worse. We could have Bill O'Brien.
Man, how about the Texans? Yeah. You're basically firing your head coach, your OC, and your GM in one day. The Texans did. That's quite a day. Yeah. Defensively, I just, I think at times it's talent. At times, I think they're just getting outplayed. I think other times it's the same. And I talked about this last week and this week. What bothers me is that we're hearing the same things about this defense from players, from coaches that we did last year, where guys are not trusting the scheme enough. They're playing outside the scheme. They're trying to make too much happen instead of just worrying about their responsibilities. And it leads to breakdowns in recognition or angles. And that was supposed to change with a new staff, a new scheme, and it's not changing. And on top of that, injuries. I'm not going to use injuries as an excuse because everybody has them right now. But they're really missing Leighton Vander Esch.
Big time. Yeah.
They're missing Gerald McCoy in the middle of that defense. He could have helped them. And at the quarterback position, Trayvon Diggs is going to be a really good player, but he's taking some lumps too. Quarterbacks are going after him, and they could really use Anthony Brown and Cheeto back as soon as possible. And maybe you get Anthony Brown back this week, but it's not just injuries. It's everything you guys covered. I mean, they're just not they're not being sound fundamentally. And I think they give up a play or two and their confidence suffers, and it shows the rest of the game.
Yeah, because they start snowballing. We've had games now back to back where we've had back to back turnovers. That's why the turnover differential is so ridiculous. They get inside their own heads, the confidence goes, and then there's just it takes a long time for them to recover and actually start putting some effort in. And that's I genuinely have a bit of a problem. It's a genuine point to make, but I have a problem with people who turn around and say, to a degree, people who turn around and start making the argument of talent, saying there's not enough talent on this roster to actually make a difference. There's reasons we went out and got the players we got in free agency. They were decent players before. They're not playing up to standard now. The problem there, as I said earlier on, is commitment and the actual drive to actually go and get it done. If Rod Marinelli could get it done with basically the only name being Sean Lee, and that was purely just people putting in effort. They were meant to be the worst defense in the league going in. They finished 10th, purely just because they grabbed teams by the balls and went for it, and they tackled properly, and just put some goddamn effort in. Like, Jesus.
Yeah, that's 2014.
That's a lot of what this team needs to do.
That 2014 season, they were signing guys just off the couch to come in and play defensive line for them.
Exactly. And people want to turn around and say that, yes, injuries are an issue. Yeah, all of that, that's fine. Yeah. But you can't turn around and say that this team is so terrible compared to that team and say it's because of talent. I disagree with that to a very big degree.
No, that's fair.
I've got a question. See, there's obviously with COVID and stuff like that. See, in terms of the preparation of game evaluation against your opponents, like game film and stuff like that, is that taking any knock-on effect?
You'd think so. Very, very good question. I think this is something that was brought up on one of the shows today. I can't remember which one it was. I think it's a valid point. I think it's a very valid point. It just doesn't seem to be happening, does it? Because they're not seeing things and reacting well. Ergo, they might not be studying enough tape because of everything that's going on.
That's what I'm thinking. Because everything, because you need to go through protocols, and it's taking time away from seeing more film and whatever and that. And one of the other points is obviously the tackling. Again, a lot, and this is not just us, it's all across the league. There's been a huge amount of missed tackles that's been going about. And the result of that is running backs are losing ACLs for breakfast right now.
Yeah.
Because they're not tackling, people are not tackling properly and actually causing serious injury.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
100%. Yeah. It's both very valid points. But then if they're not watching film because of things going on with COVID and all the rest of it, There are plenty of other teams that have had positive tests and all those scares and all the things they've had to adapt to that the Cowboys haven't had thus far, and yet they seem to be managing okay. So they're clearly watching enough film. So again, it comes back to the preparation and the effort side of things, whether it's on the field or before you get to the field. It needs to increase. It has to.
Yep. So moving along into the linebacker core, and I mean, I think this has been one of the biggest things on Twitter in the last 48 hours.
Yeah,
is the linebacking core, and especially Jalen Smith.
Yeah.
My own personal opinion on this is that Jalen seems to be too much in his own head. He's trying to do too much and misses the guidance of having a Sean Lee or a Leighton Van Der Esch beside him, who he seems comfortable with because he knows they will do their job. He just doesn't seem to trust anyone. But I mean, I've seen people calling him the worst linebacker in the league. That why did we not draft Miles Jack back in 2016? He should be cut. He won't make the roster next year. I mean, is there something we're missing? Or is he just that bad, Rob?
Well, it's funny because Mike McCarthy was asked about Jalen. Mike Nolan was asked about Jalen. Jerry Jones was asked about Jalen today because of the criticism you're mentioning, Brian. And, they all came to his defense. And I know publicly that's something you have to do. But I do think genuinely they appreciate, with the exception of, like that play we talked about, the reverse play where I don't know what happened there. I think they appreciate overall his down-to-down effort in trying to make plays. The problem is from an assignment perspective, sometimes his keys, it's like, and it's not just Jalen, but overrunning plays and trying to make the big play instead of the sound play, I think has been an issue at times from that position, from Jalen. And like I mentioned, trying to do too much at times and not just playing within the scheme. And I think that's been an issue, not to mention the face mask penalty that he had in the second quarter, to me was maybe the biggest play in the game.
I didn't even get to see the action replay. Did he actually grab the helmet?
Yeah. Last second. I mean, just kind of basically jumping on a pile, and the play was over. And
tackle was
all
made.
Of a sudden, you go from a 3rd and long potential situation to a scoring drive for Cleveland, and they're right back in it. And then, as we've touched on, the offense can't hang on to the ball, and the whole scope of the game changes after that. So I think they realize they need Jalen Smith right now. They really need him because without Leighton, without Sean, he's got to be the quarterback back there, and he's taken on more of a role than he anticipated this year with Leighton going out. And I think Leighton really complements him, allows him to play more free, and maybe get after the quarterback better more often. That's more probably where he's best at doing, and he's having to be that middle linebacker quarterback role, and that wasn't what they envisioned for him at the start of the year.
Yeah, and that's exactly the point I was going to make, was that because I think he's a bit a victim to a degree of what's been going on, because he is the sole man left standing, really, out of those 3 guys. He's the person they have the most confidence in. He's having to do everything, be the quarterback back there, try and analyze everything and react, because he's the people who are beside him. Yeah, he probably hasn't got that confidence in them, but that's not the best thing that he does. The best use they have for him is situational blitzing, trying to get to the quarterback. That's what they specifically said they wanted to use him to do, and they're not able to do it because they have to have him back there because he's the best chance they've got.
I'm going to add something in there as well, and I'm going to be quoting a different NFL coach, Bill Belichick. Do your job. Do what you're assigned to. Don't overcomplicate it. That's all we had to do. Like, there's been a few occasions for that whole game and previous other games, even from the Rams game onwards, where we're seeing our linebackers just trying to do too much, and it's screwing us over and over now. Like, and it's been, but now because of that, you're going to be overthinking now, and we saw that in that reverse play at the end that killed us. Like, Jalen was just standing, like literally just waiting. Like, there's trust issues with your core, and I'm there needs to be a bit more it's really hard to like. I can't say like get a magic wand and it's like trust each other. Going like it's like
Yeah.
you do. It's not going to happen, but
Yeah.
it needs to be quicker. They need to bond a lot quicker than we anticipating now.
And the thing about it too is teams. The more tape they get on you, they're going to see what you're not good at, and they're going to go after you. And depending on their personnel, you know, the Browns had the personnel to try some of those deep plays that the Seahawks were so good at, and they tested them right off the bat, and it pulled off. So I wonder, you know, the Giants don't have Saquon Barkley, but I'm very interested to see how much they try to establish the run. And we know Jason Garrett is going to want to do that. That's his MO. And how do the Cowboys handle that? You know, it's an offense that has really struggled for the Giants, but they're going to load up, I bet, and try and test the Cowboys' run defense, and we'll see how they handle it.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm excited or absolutely fear for my life for that game against the Giants now because of how things are going on right now. I'm more worried.
I'm nervous.
I'll be honest, I'm actually more nervous about Washington than I thought I never ever would say that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I was nervous about this game. I was speaking to Mike before we went on the previous show, the pregame show. I said this genuinely feels like a trap game right now. It's ridiculous. And lo and behold, and the Giants have not been able to really establish the run that well, but they've been getting better each game. And the last game they actually went 25 for 136, and that was the one time they actually did pretty well. In terms of controlling the play clock and time of possession, and they almost beat the Rams. So yeah, I am a bit nervous in terms of playing the Giants now. I'm not going to lie.
I'm with you, Rich.
So moving on to the secondary, and again, I think this has been a huge area of concern, and the amount of comments we've had in from people.
Flying in, folks. Thanks for the comments. They're flying in.
Yeah,
they're absolutely flying in. The one question we keep getting, Rob, Earl Thomas.
Oh boy, yeah. You got the UT sweatshirt on too.
Yeah.
You know, I just don't think, you know, at this point, part of me was waiting for it to happen early in the season. But I think by this point, as much as they've struggled in the fact that he's still out there and they haven't gone in that direction, I'd have to see it to believe it. I don't really think it's going to happen. They keep saying that they trust the guys they have, and they're just going to rely on the guys they've got and trust that more time in the scheme will help everybody. And you know, it surprises me that he's still out there. Period. You know, he was supposed to maybe have a workout reportedly with the Texans. That didn't happen, I guess. And you've got to think that it's probably a combination of maybe how much money he wants compared to where he is in his career, as well as whatever happened with the Ravens in training camp that got him sent away from that team and released. I think that's probably a huge factor with teams as well. And the Cowboys just don't seem willing to go in that direction. It's a little surprising, but I guess they have their reasons.
Yeah,
I think Graham makes a really good point.
Yeah.
And we all know Earl Thomas as a legitimate great safety. He has a good field. I can't even talk right now. But it's more to do with his personality. It's in the locker room. Like the way for me, when he was at Seattle, he came over across to our changing room to talk to Jason Garrett at times, like, sign me up. He had the opportunity to sign for us when he tail end of his contract with Seattle, but decided to sign for Baltimore. But now we saw what's happened in Baltimore now. It's like it seems to be an occurrence with him and not other. So I'm kind of, if that's the case, I don't want anything to do with him. I don't want, but I'll be honest, there's an argument that's like, how can things be any worse right now? There's that argument now. It's like, it's now becoming a bit of a desperate measure now. Do we really need to bring him in?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, but I mean, I'm of the opinion that I think this defense is potentially lacking in terms of leadership. There are leaders in there. I think they just need to step up. Bringing someone like Earl Thomas in, like you said, with the problems he's documented as having in the locker room is probably not a great idea right now, in all honesty. I don't think he could be that kind of person, be that leader kind of person. I think he would potentially bring a bit too much ego, a bit too much drama into things. Reading or trying to read between the lines with the whole Texans situation, it read or felt very much like he was sent home. There was sort of COVID reasons, obviously not related to him, but it very much read as this is the official story. There are other things going on in the background that you guys don't know about. And I think Fish has mentioned or said words to the effect of stuff is going on potentially in his personal life as well. There's problems there. There's problems in the locker room, and it's too much for multiple teams. Do we really need to be adding? Like, I know you said it's a bit like Last Chance Saloon right now, and it's looking quite desperate. But
yeah, like the main question I'd have in terms of secondary, and as you can see over my shoulder there, I've my Jeff Heath game worn jersey.
He's got to drop it. Yeah,
there
it is. Oh, Jeff Heath.
I never even saw that, man. An hour in the show, the Goats jersey. All right,
the Goat. But it seems
I've got Randy White. Oof, there you go.
Oh, it's a game worn.
I don't care. Get Randy White. Get Randy White back in a time machine. There we go.
Is it a case this year that, you know, with Jeff gone, with Byron Jones gone, we just don't have a leader in that secondary unit? And was it a mistake to let both of them walk out the door?
Yeah, I think they're definitely missing Byron Jones for sure. I think Jeff was solid back there. I think he didn't get enough credit. You know, I think a lot of times people remember the Adrian Peterson play where he got trucked, you know, and that's kind of like the lasting memory of Jeff Heath. But yeah, he was a solid player back there. And he didn't, you know, they didn't have a lot of big plays in the passing game for the most part when he was back there and when they played that single high stuff. They value Xavier Woods as a leader back there. They really do. Obviously, the production hasn't been there yet. And maybe I'm just waffling game to game because the Seattle game was more about communication back there. But after watching the Cleveland game, the thing that really stands out to me is that front seven in terms of pressure, lack of pressure / not being able to be productive enough against the run and not controlling the line of scrimmage. And, you know, and Earl Thomas can only do so much if he were to come in here, and he's not. Yeah. But, you know, that they've got other issues beyond that.
Paul, what was that face, man?
I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
I don't know what type of face I was trying to pull there.
It was just like the name popped up, and I'm like, just looked at Paul, and he's just like, I don't know how to react to that one.
Yeah, I don't know what to make it. Like Morris Claiborne.
Yeah, like I think going back to the weekend, I think, Rob, one of the bright spots was one of your own beloved Texas Aggies.
Yes.
The performance of Donovan Wilson, who I think it was 9 tackles he had. He had a sack and a quarterback hit and a tackle for a loss. So 10 tackles, in fact. I was incorrect. Like,
Maggies.
Yeah. Like, I mean, for a guy who has been around the squad for a year to come in and do what he did at the weekend, like, I mean, he just seemed to slip in unknowns to any of us. And when I was doing the stats for the show, just saw the numbers are, whoa, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, that was interesting because it turns out Mike Nolan told us that he's actually been getting a lot of practice time, and they've been running some combinations there in practice, and they gave him the opportunity after Darian Thompson, you know, sort of took a bad angle, I guess, on that opening touchdown drive and just got caught there, too slow to react. And they went with the change. And one thing about Donovan, from back at A&M to what we've seen in limited situations here, is he's around the ball. He finds his way around the ball. Definitely wasn't perfect for him in the game, but I think there were some encouraging things, like you said, Brian. And I'll be honest with you, I brought it up on the show this morning. Brandon Carr was the guy that stood out to me. Like, you know, if you wanted some help at safety, why wouldn't you look at him in that situation? And ultimately, I guess they didn't see enough when he came in here for a few games. And they're going with a younger guy right now. And we'll see what that rotation is with Thompson, who starts Sunday.
Yeah. Just trying to see if we have anything else. Like, I mean, go on, Paul.
I was going to say our good friend Lloyd was asking, does 7-9 win the division? I think there's a good chance of this happening.
Man, that would be something. What do you guys think?
I would not be surprised.
Anything could happen.
Yeah.
2020, man. Anything could happen.
It is. Yeah, you're right. 2020, man.
We just watched the Browns come in and play like the Cowboys used to. Like,
yeah.
Smash mouth, run you over. Yeah. I was the only person on our show to pick the Eagles to win that game the other night, so I take credit for that. I just think that they're gonna figure it out. I know everybody just hates the Eagles, so nobody was gonna pick them. So I did.
That's fair enough.
I don't care. They're a trash team, they're a trash franchise, and they've got trash fans. I'm saying it.
100%. I'm not going to repeat what I said at the last show of the previous season because I'm not allowed to swear on these shows anymore. But it's just like Jesus, they are just trash. I hate them all. I really, really do. I hate them with a passion. They just
give us the line, Rich.
Man. No, they're a bunch of clowns. They're a bunch of clowns. I'll tell you off the air.
The line, Rich.
I'm not saying it, man. I'm not saying it. Not right now.
See what you started, Lloyd.
Oh, it's just Lloyd. I hate him. The sickening thing though is like what Rob said. The sickening thing is what Rob said is that I can see the Eagles doing it, and that genuinely makes me feel sick to my stomach.
Yeah, like I think they're going to get it together. I don't know if they're going to win 10 games, but they're going to make it. It always seems like it comes down to the Cowboys and the Eagles either in week 16 or 17, and I fully expect that this year.
Yeah.
Like my own opinion is 6-10 could win this division. Yeah.
Wow.
Probably.
Because I think everyone is going to take games off each other, bar the Giants, because they're trash too. We love the UK Giants; they are great friends of ours, but we just continue to insult them and tell them they're trash.
Hang on. Let me write this down. Brian said, "Let's write this down now before the game." God.
No, we're not on the pre-game show where I give a hot take and it normally comes true.
Too late.
But no, I have one request in here, and this is obviously from Mike Poland. Just keep talking about the Aggies.
For goodness sake!
Nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to do that.
But no, I think we've actually ran over time. We asked Rob for maybe a half an hour to an hour of time. We're closing in on an hour and 15 minutes. I mean, this has been brilliant, but obviously we need to let Rob back to his own life and his own work, which I'm sure Derek will be looking for by the end of today. But,
yeah, he'll probably check in with me here in a little bit, or Nick, one of the two will. Yeah. No, but I've really enjoyed it, guys. Like, hey, there was a lot of ground to cover that game. My goodness. So
yeah, we need to talk about special teams, but what else can we say about it?
Let's not.
Yeah. I mean, I think to be fair, special teams weren't too bad this weekend. Well, on the kicking side of it, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at least that seems to be improving.
Just why kick the blinking like a fourth? What was the logic? Like, try and be very quick. What was the logic? Genuine question behind trying to kick an onside or a squib or whatever the heck it was meant to be in that situation. Why?
They were trying to go deeper, right, Paul? I think they were trying to go deeper than that.
The first one almost worked as well because if that ball hit any of those players, it's a live ball, and it would have been a touchback. But the second attempt at it was just
that's what I'm on about.
Yeah, that was a complete.
I just like as bad as they played, I don't get why you wouldn't try and just pin them back as far as you can and hope to God, because they gifted you throwing the ball for some strange reason. Yep. Why would you not just like try your luck again and just see what happens? But I don't know.
I agree. There was a lot of that in this game where you kind of shrug your shoulders at it.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, 2020. Yeah.
I think we might have a winning comment in there in terms of Joe Thomas. actually throwing a block for Odell. You know what I mean? I think that summed up the game perfectly.
Yeah.
That's what I was just saying earlier. You actually targeted the wrong bloody person.
Yeah.
But
Because,
as you,
I can't remember. I can't remember who actually posted the video discussing it. It was on Twitter. Oh God, what's his name?
Manny Ocho.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah. He broke that play down altogether, and he was like, "Come on, what the hell?"
Yeah.
It's bad. Right, we need to let Rob go.
Yeah.
Get out now. Get out now while you can.
No, man, guys, I've really enjoyed it. I mean, I love how you guys are helping, grow the game over across the pond. It's really cool. It's kind of the same. It's been a same effect from a soccer football standpoint over here. I've become a massive Premier League fan. I watch it every weekend. And so I think it's really cool that different sports are growing across the globe. And I just appreciate the work you guys do. It's a lot of fun.
Who's your team?
I don't want to offend anybody. I don't want to make any enemies here.
We're all friends here. We're all friends. It's fine.
Even I adopted Tottenham Hotspur.
Tottenham Hotspur are non-offensive.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Brian, I think I saw you're a Man U fan, correct?
Yeah.
So I didn't want to bring up Sunday. I didn't want to do that.
Don't worry. Hopefully that might get our manager the sack, seeing as no one else is going to get the sack this week.
That was wild.
Yeah.
But yeah. I didn't expect 6 goals since Jose took over. We're lucky to get 1 or 2 a game. So
yeah.
But anyway, yeah, it's a lot of fun, guys. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, it's been a pleasure to have you on, Rob. Since we reached out to you, it's been great chatting with you, and hopefully we might be able to get you back on before the end of the season on this show, or maybe on one of the pre-game shows with Mike and the boys over there. But
absolutely,
really like to thank you for your time. It was great having you.
100%.
Thank you guys. Be safe and go Cowboys. Hope for a better result in Week 5.
Absolutely, mate.
Absolutely. And good night to everybody else. So good night from Paul.
Oh, you almost forgot something.
Of course it is. Paul, take it away.
Right, so anyone that's attending to a Cowboys game this year, be sure to go and check out our sponsors, Cowboys Experience, for the ultimate game day experience. Meet and greet, tailgate, and game day experiences. And if you can use the discount code UK Cowboys for a special package. And if you're in the States, you can call the number 817-888-1726. And visit Cowboys Experience.
Use the code. Don't be a clown. Use the code. Get free stuff.
Yes. Barry and the boys will look after you with all the free stuff. But wrapping it up, thank you to Rob.
Thank you, guys.
Paul. Thank you to Rich. And good night, one and all. Take care of yourselves.
Bye, guys.
Ciao.